Dale switch, dog.
Hoy vamos a romper la cadena, matar la pena, soltar la maleta. Yo quiero bailar a lo loco, sentir un poco la alegría y esperanza. Esto funciona solo si te atreves. La fiesta no empieza hasta que yo llegue. ¿Cómo fue? 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 La riqueza la llevo mi piel. La fortaleza la llevo.
Hey, what's up guys? Jeremy here, and I've got something really exciting for us. I've got with us my friend Don Ryvcko. And Don, how about you tell our friends, who are you? What do you do? Man, why should they be excited?
Yeah, so like Jeremy said, I'm Don Ryvcko, and basically I make hip-hop / reggaeton music, and I've been doing that for a little bit now. And I'm from Honduras, from Tegucigalpa, Honduras. Lived there for about 10 years and then moved here to the States. And I'm just excited to be here and really just have this conversation and go more into all this stuff.
For sure. So Don's being humble. This dude is popping off. He's got some awesome songs on Spotify, some great music videos you can look up on YouTube. We're going to get to that in a second. But before we do, we just kind of wanted to get a behind the scenes look at who Don is and how he got to where he's at, and kind of the why behind what he does, how he looks at his relationship with his music and his art to his calling as a Christian and his work for the Lord. So, Don, the students watching are part of the Convención Nacional Cristiana, the jóvenes portion. So jóvenes being students, and basically, for all intents and purposes, we can describe it as kind of this 3-day summer camp experience.
Right.
We've had kids who have been spending the night in hotel rooms or churches, hanging out with friends, and probably their youth leaders and parents have been getting onto them because, you know, when you're in camp, you're turning up, you're having a good time, you're with your friends.
Of course.
Not saying you guys have gotten into too much trouble, but we know how it is. So, Don, were you a summer camp kid, and were you the good kid or kind of the one that the youth leader had to get onto?
Yeah, so, I mean, just when I was younger, I definitely attended a lot of summer camps. And there were definitely the highlights.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And, you know, I just had great experiences there. Had so much fun just with all the activities that we did. But on the other side of things as well, like, I was just able to learn so much and really just grow in my walk with Christ as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've definitely gone to a lot of summer camps, and what I can say is that it's definitely a great experience.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? You can have those spiritual high moments, and then you can have those moments where you're just like cracking up with friends, like staying up late at night. And I think that's the best part about camp or convention or conferences experiences. So we're excited for you guys, and we hope you're having a good time. So were you the bad kid? Do you have like a certain story where it's like this summer camp experience that like digs itself into your mind as this memory where it's like, oh yeah, that was peak summer camp for me?
Yeah. So, I wasn't really the bad kid.
Okay.
I was usually pretty good, pretty reserved. Mm-hmm. But I do have this one experience I remember from summer camp. We had 2 boys' dorms, and for some reason, the last night of summer camp, one of the all the boys from one of the dorms came over to ours and just started throwing axe bombs in there, and it was a hard night. It was a rough night.
Yeah, just like,
man, I
can't
telling
breathe.
you, like that stuff will mess you up. There's a lot of axe in there. There's never a good thing.
Yeah,
never a good thing.
And it just keeps going and going and going.
I was definitely didn't get sleep that night.
Yeah,
I can say that much. But yeah, other than that though, honestly, I think one of my favorite things about these summer camps is probably like you had mentioned, just staying up all night, because it was a lot of times. It was during that time that I got to have some of the best conversations with some of my friends, and even with some people, you know, who I just met at the camp, and really just learn more about other people. I love learning more about other people, but also in those conversations, you learn more about yourself, and you learn more about God and about your walk with God. And so I think that has to be probably one of my favorite takeaways from these summer camps, even though, you know, we were supposed to be going to sleep and stuff. But nonetheless, I love that aspect of it, and I feel like that's one of the things that really stuck with me, even till now.
Yeah, like these experiences, especially working with like other students, I've worked with a lot of summer camps over the years. I just realized like how formative it is to have these opportunities where you are spending time with other people. And I think like as the week goes on, you kind of peel back the layers and the defenses that you come into camp with, and like you start being your authentic self more and more and having these conversations like you mentioned. So we want to do that. We want to have these type of conversations, and we're encouraging our students to have them. And I think it'd be helpful for them to hear a little bit more from somebody who is engaging in a world that, we enjoy. We love listening to the music. And I think we forget a lot of times with the people that we're seeing on Instagram and listening to on Spotify, seeing on YouTube, like those are actual people who had these formative experiences as well. So before you were Don Ryvcko, and it is Don Ryvcko, right? It is Don
Ryvcko, that's right.
Okay, so I've heard, Don Ryvcko. Yeah, spell it out for him.
It's DonRyvcko.
Don Ryvcko. I'm sure people mess that up a lot,
Had a lot of mispronunciations. You get Don Ryvcko, you get Don Ryvcko.
What's the worst one you've gotten?
The worst one definitely has to be this lady. I was about to go do a performance, and so she calls my name, calls me up to the stage. She's like, "Welcome to the stage, Don Ryvcko." And I mean, I was the look on my face. I'm sure you could tell from the audience, but I don't quite know how she came to that to pronouncing it that way. But at this point, I'm so used to it, it just doesn't bother me anymore.
Oh man,
it just doesn't. But that has to be one of the best ones.
Don Ryvcko to Don Ryvcko is what he said. So before he was Don Ryvcko, before he was Don Ryvcko, being mispronounced so often. You were just a kid, right? Going to summer camp. You kind of mentioned it offhand, but I think it's really interesting to hear a little bit more about that you grew up in Honduras, right? Yeah. So how did that happen? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so really just short, to make a long story short, both of my parents, they're from Mississippi. They're from the U.S. And so they, once they got married, they felt God calling them into the mission field and into they first went to Belize. They were there for 2 years serving, and later they felt that God was calling them to move to Honduras. So they moved there and ended up staying there 21 years. And so me and all my older brothers, we were all born and raised there. And one of the great things about it too is I feel like I just know about a lot of, because we're missionary kids.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of stigma, a lot of just a lot of connotations, negative connotations, I guess, that comes with being missionaries or like missionary kids a lot of times.
Yeah.
But, my parents made sure of, if we were in Honduras, we were going to be a part of the people, part of the culture. And so the only time we spoke English was inside the house, with each other.
Yeah.
Everywhere else outside the house, or when we had people coming into our house, it was all Spanish. Because ultimately we're there to serve. We're there, we're part of the people. We're not, I think a lot of times missionaries go into these things maybe without realizing, but they're like, almost like, okay, I'm here to change the people here. And we're going to teach them how to do things our way, stuff like that. And it's just like, nah, man, like everybody there, we're all the same. We're all the same people. And I think it's just beautiful that my parents really made an effort to get us involved with the people and the culture. And I mean, that's what gave me so much of my identity as well.
Yeah.
Being able to say that I'm Honduran, it's because I embraced it. It's such a big part of who I am.
Yeah.
And, I take pride in that. God obviously had a reason for, calling my parents to go to Honduras and live there for 21 years and all my family being born and raised there. And so it's just a great thing, but I definitely, it's definitely a blessing to have parents who were very mindful of where they were and very, very passionate about being a part of the people. And just building those relationships and being a light there.
I find it interesting, I think it's awesome. Like, you are Honduran. Like you mentioned, like, I am Honduran. And, I'm a missionary kid myself, and I find it so interesting, like, how much you identify with the country and the culture that your parents served in. And, like, even though your looks or your papers might say otherwise, like, you are, for all intents and purposes, like, Honduran. And, like, my parents served in Uruguay. So, like, the times that I see it the most is, like, man, like, World Cup, like, man, I'm American.
Yeah.
I've lived in the States pretty much my whole life, but, like, I am Uruguayan through and through. Like, I'm, like, yelling at the TV, and I'm going for it. And, like, I just feel so closely identified to this culture that was a part of my family for years and has made me who I am. And I hear that a lot, that, in what you're saying, that, like, you are Honduran, but sometimes, if somebody were just to meet you, you might not look the part. And that can get us into some interesting situations.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm wondering, like, especially growing up in Honduras, like, not looking the part. What was interesting about that? Were there any funny moments that came out about that? Like, maybe somebody assuming you didn't speak Spanish and you do, and, like, you coming out and, like,
honestly,
like, here I am.
Man, honestly, what's crazy about all that is that everybody took us in. Everybody took us in as if, not as if, but, like, because we were Hondurans, we were born and raised there, and they did not look at us any differently, which I think is crazy, and it speaks volumes of the people there as well. And so, I mean, I look back at my photos from, like, school and everything like that, like the group photos. You can tell right away where I am in that picture, because I'm just freaking, like, super white. I mean, goodness, like, I was even whiter back then than I am now. Not quite sure how that works, but no, like, it's just crazy to me. Like, they took me in like one of them, and that's I think that was such a blessing, because I didn't see myself as, like, different from them. I grew up with my friends in Honduras, and I mean, it's a blessing to be able to call them family. Really, we had so many people there that just supported us and everything that we're doing, and just overall, it's a blessing from God. But no, I think so many people knew my parents and everything, so not a lot of people, like, assumed when they looked at me, like, oh, I bet he doesn't speak any Spanish, because they kind of already knew, like, who we were and what we were doing there. But yeah, awesome experience. I love Honduras. That's never gonna change, obviously. And yeah.
Sweet. I love hearing, like, just how special that time was for you. And I want to ask, like, obviously, coming from a missionary family, serving in Honduras, like, obviously ministry and church work had to be a pretty big part of your life. Like, you're there early, you're helping set up chairs for a church service, you're staying late, making sure things are all ready to go. You're helping out with any ministry drives that might be going on. How do you view that upbringing, like, being surrounded by faith, being surrounded by mission work and ministry? How did that kind of lead you to where you are now, what you're doing, and even, like, your own convictions and beliefs as to your relationship with faith?
I think the number one thing I saw in all of that, with all the people we worked with, it's got to be authenticity. Everybody was very authentic. Their faith was authentic. It was their own faith. This wasn't, I was brought up by my parents believing in God, and so, I just kind of, it is what it is. I just kind of believe in God because my parents did. It's nothing like that. It was very real. And they were passionate about everything that they did. Anywhere they served in any way, whether it be a small thing or a big thing, it didn't matter what it was. They were very passionate. And I think that influenced me in ways that I still don't even know, honestly. Just it's crazy what someone being so passionate doing what they're doing for the Lord. It's so crazy how that can impact you. I mean, for your whole life. And so I think more than anything, that was the number one thing I saw, was just people who were authentic in their relationships with God, were truly passionate about doing the Lord's work, and they didn't let anything stop them. And, being involved with those people, being a part of those people, definitely was a blessing. in Honduras. It definitely was.
Awesome. Let's speak a little bit more on that authenticity thing you mentioned. Like, I think back to my own faith journey, and I know that we probably have a lot of students in the room who are figuring things out for themselves as well. But there's this point where you mentioned it stops being your parents' faith, and it starts becoming your own. It becomes authentic to yourself. Can you think back to, you're growing up? What was, if you can speak to like a moment or a realization where you started becoming authentic in your faith? Mm-hmm. You started accepting it just as your own and not just something that you've grown up around.
Right. I think for me, it probably had to have been when we moved up here to the States.
Yeah.
Because there were so many different things I had to deal with.
When was that? How old were you?
I was 10 years old when we moved. So it was in 2010. And so, yeah, I had to deal with so much cultural shock. It was something I wasn't used to. And, there were some problems that came with that. I was having sort of like these identity problems as well because being in Mississippi, I didn't have not really any Latinos to talk to much where we were. And, I felt like I was missing a piece of myself. But there were a lot of those kind of struggles that I went through. And when you go through those struggles, it's kind of when your faith is tested the most, I feel like. And so for me, it was, my faith was being tested. God was testing my faith. And like, it comes to a point where it's like, if you're not truly faithful to God, if you don't truly believe in God, it'll show, and you'll, and so for me, it was just, it's a lot of just testing faith and realizing, hey, I'm dependent on God. I can't make it without God. I need God in my life. Yeah. Like, I know for myself, I need God in my life. This is not, a relationship. God is not, it's not a tradition. It shouldn't be made a tradition. It's not religion. It's a relationship with God. Yeah. And so I think going through those moments where I struggled the most, where I struggled with cultural identity, or where I struggled with just a lot of different things in life that people struggle with, it tested my faith, and it made me realize, if this faith is not my own, if I don't truly believe in God, I'm lost.
Yeah,
I don't know what to
it's
do.
almost like these moments where your faith is tested and where you find yourself, struggling for the first time. It almost puts a decision in front of a Christian who has grown up a Christian, around their family, that like, when you face struggles for the first time, are you going to turn to the Lord in it, or are you going to run from it? And like, I think back to what you shared, and to like a lot of what we see in Scripture, that like so often faith becomes authentic when somebody is challenged in their faith. It's easy to be a Christian and just show up to church on Sunday and just do what your family's doing. But when you find yourself in a life position where it's like, okay, what am I going to do? Jonah had this opportunity where he's like, what am I going to do? Isaiah had this opportunity where he's like, what am I going to do? Saul had this opportunity. Like, they found themselves in these like make or break situations where it's like, is this going to be authentic to me, or am I just going to lean into that tradition? So I appreciate you sharing that. I think it speaks a lot to not only what we've learned this week, but what we're going to be talking about this week a lot with our students. So you mentioned, you moved when you were 10. Did the music thing, like your love for music and your work in music, when did that start? Was that happening already in Honduras, or was it something that kind of started right when you got to the States? Like,
so really, I mean, from when I was born, the minute I was born, I was kind of born into a musical family. So kind of my parents, they played instruments, they did different things, sometimes played in some bands as well, some local bands when they were younger. And then each one of my brothers, they play some kind of instrument, and they play like really well. So like my oldest brother, his name is John Gray, he plays the guitar. And then my other brother, Nathaniel, he plays the piano. Then my other brother, David, he plays the drums. And then I was the one that sang. And so we kind of had like a sort of family band going, you know what I'm saying? Just when we're all together. But yeah, my passion for music, my love for music started from just the very beginning. And whenever I had an opportunity, you know, there was a piano in my hand or something I could like get sound from.
Yeah.
I always experimented with it. I loved the sounds. I love just messing with it. Yeah, so for me, it was just a fun thing to do whenever I got the chance. And, you know, we were definitely involved. My brothers were involved a lot with like worship bands in Honduras, in the church. I was a little too young to be doing it myself.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, yeah, we were raised just kind of in a musical family. And so when we moved here to the States, I really took that with me.
Okay.
And I remember the first song I heard when we moved to the States was a Lecrae song. Somebody had given us the Rehab CD.
Yeah, that's
so the first
deep.
song I heard was Walking on Water.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is I'm not taking shots or anything. It's probably one of my least favorite Lecrae songs, honestly. But
we still love you, Lecrae.
But but look, it impacted me. It really impacted me. It sparked something in me that I didn't have in there before. And you know, that's kind of where my love for Christian rap came.
Okay.
Was hearing that Rehab CD, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I want to do this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so just from there, like, I remember I used to record all my songs on my brother's iPod Nano. I'd put it on top of the keyboard, and then, you know, some keyboards let you like record several sounds at once. So I'd like do the drums on the keyboard, and then I'd do the synth, the bass, all that, and then I just play that recording and sing, and the iPod Nano would get all that. And those were my songs. And so that's kind of where that started.
Wow. Okay.
That's how I was recording. And, you know, gradually I started, you know, there was FL Studio. I was like, hey, I'm going to start producing beats on here. You know, we got the bootleg version and everything.
Yeah, as one does. We're struggling here at the start.
Always. But, and so my love for production grew from there. And then I finally got to a point, I was about 16 years old. I finally bought my own mic. You know, I had my own tiny little setup, and I was able to start recording songs a little bit more legit. And I did everything. You know, I tried to learn by myself how to mix, how to master, produce these beats, record myself, and the whole creative process. It just became such a fun thing for me because just it goes back to when I was very little in Honduras. Like, I just enjoyed experimenting with sounds and just hearing them and doing different things and saying what happens when I like do the sound this way, or like, you know, stuff like that. And that just carried into when we moved here to the US, and I still have that in me. It's just like it's that curiosity you have as a little kid. Like, that's still in me, and it's beautiful. And I think God has used that in major ways. And, you know, he's definitely, I've learned from God that is the gift that he's given me. And to use that gift to be able to minister to other people, to be able to reach to other people and show them Christ's love, and show them about Christ and about the gospel and everything.
Nice. I love how you connected like that same curiosity you had as a kid, like playing on that keyboard with that iPod Nano. Like, that's the same thing that you carried into making music, like as Don Ryvcko today. So I bet there's some students who are at different stages within that journey where they are either they're figuring out like what they're passionate about, what they're talented at, what they naturally enjoy doing, and maybe they want to serve the Lord with it.
Right.
But they feel like either they don't have the right resources or the right amount of talent, or even like bravery, like you got to be brave to step out and say like, okay, I'm going to take this passion that I have and present it to other people. So you shared like that same kid who is making music on the iPod Nano is the same guy who's, you know, opening up for Social Club Misfits and who is using his music to reach like this big group of people now. So no matter where a student might be on that journey, what advice would you give somebody who is learning to take that passion and continue to follow it through and use it for the glory of the Lord?
Yeah, so the first thing, I mean, look, the way it happened for me is going to be different from how it happens with everybody else. Everybody's story is different. Everyone's calling from the Lord comes at a different time. And, you know, sometimes I know some people, you know, for me, the Lord really called me to music when I was 12. Very early, considering, you know, when most people feel called sometimes. But no matter when it is that you feel God calling you and you finally know, okay, this is what God is calling me to do. This is how God is calling me to use my work, to use my passion, to use my talent that he's given me. And a lot of times people don't even know what talent exactly that is. You know what I'm saying? But the beautiful thing is like, even when you don't have the answer, when you're not sure what it is God is calling you to, that doesn't mean that you just have to stay in place. You can keep going forward. And the thing is, God will reveal that to you. If you just keep growing, learning, and studying his word, spending time in prayer, just growing in your relationship with him. Like God will reveal that to you, because if you're truly faithful to God, if you truly love God, like he has plans for you. He has plans for every one of us. And the most important thing, the thing I've learned for myself is like, the most important thing is to be obedient to God, to be patient, because a lot of times it takes a lot of patience. And for some people, I think some of us really worry about like, if I don't know what I'm doing right now in my life, I'm never gonna know, or like it's gonna be too late. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And I think that's just false, because God has used people at 70 years old, that maybe weren't really doing much before that, but God used them at that time. God can use you whenever. And the thing is, whatever his plan is, like he's gonna fulfill it. He's gonna fulfill it through you. And so I think it takes patience, takes obedience, and it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, even for me, even though I'm in at a time in my life where I know what talent it is that God is given me, and that I'm using to do the Lord's work, even though I know that, I go through a lot of seasons of doubt. I go through a lot of times where it's like nothing's happening. I feel like my music's doing absolutely nothing, and I kind of want to give up. You know what I'm saying? I think it's really, really easy to go through those seasons a lot of times, but it's crazy how God will reveal things to you, and if God has called you to do something, you can't mess it up. You can't mess up what God has lined up for you, what God has in store for you. You can't mess it up. And a lot of times we're so focused on ourselves that we really think that we can mess up God's plan. We really think we have that amount of control and power. And we don't. We don't at all. We're completely dependent on God. And so I said a lot of things right then, and I don't know exactly if I like pinpointed one specific thing.
That was huge. I hope you guys have like a notebook or something, because that man was spitting wisdom right now. Man, there's so much from that I want to unpack. Like, you spoke on patience, and as a culture, we're not a very patient culture, right? Like, think about like when your Netflix show won't load in like 5 seconds. You're like restarting it, like what the heck's going on? Like, we don't want to wait at the traffic light. We don't want to wait in line. Like, as a culture, we're just always like go, 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 go. Like, it's always so instant. But one of the things we see so often in the way that the Lord uses somebody's calling is that it doesn't happen overnight. Like, I think it's easy just to scroll through somebody, like yourselves, Instagram, and see like, oh man, like they just did this show. They just hit this number of streams on Spotify. They just released this music video, and think like, oh, I could never do that. But, people forget that like for every show of a few hundred people, a few thousand people, there were probably shows where there was maybe 5 or 6 people there. Like, how do you remain patient when you feel like maybe what you feel called to, what you feel passionate about, isn't going the way that you think it should? Like, did you have any moments in your career where you felt like can you speak to that? Like you really had to lean into your patience because you felt like, oh, this isn't going the way I thought it was.
There's a lot of moments. And I mean, I think even just now, but I would say, definitely while I started off, I was making English music at first. And I was making lots of music. I was putting it out. I put out like a whole English album and everything. And I'm getting some traction in my hometown, a very, very small hometown. But I'm just kind of like, I mean, what really is this music doing? Where, I don't know. I feel like it's just going to stay there. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to go past the people that, have already listened to this music. And most of them are my friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But man, it's crazy how God will confirm things for you. Like
Yeah.
if he has called you to do something, like he will fulfill that. You know, anytime he promises anything, his promises are always fulfilled.
Yeah.
I think we see that in the story of Abram and Sarah.
Yeah.
In that story where, Sarah was God promised Abram that he would be the father of many nations. Ultimately, that everyone would come, through him. And, it got to the point Sarah's like, well, it doesn't say how old she is, but she's very old.
Yeah.
Old to where you're definitely not going to have any babies. You know what I'm saying? And yet, God fulfilled his promise, even when it seemed absolutely impossible. I mean, to any human, it would seem impossible, that Sarah would be able to conceive at that age. But God did it because he said he would. And I think that is what has helped me so much with learning to remain patient, is that no matter where I'm at in my life, no matter if things seem like I don't feel like anything's happening, my music's not going anywhere, I don't feel like, I feel like absolutely nothing's happening, I don't know what to do. It's like, but God promised he would use me. God had a plan. God has a plan for me. And you know what? His promises, anytime he makes his promises, they're going to be fulfilled. They're going to be fulfilled. And so just trusting in God and knowing that he's going to fulfill his promise that he makes to us. Like, that's been probably the number one thing that's helped me, just to develop patience and just remain patient through the whole process.
Yeah.
And even though I know that, it still gets hard sometimes, Sometimes it's, we're human. Sometimes we forget things. Sometimes we're so focused on ourselves. And when we don't feel like we have control over things, we get very desperate and everything. But man, if you put your trust in God, I mean, like, that no matter what's going on, like, he's got it.
Yeah.
He's got it.
Yeah.
He's unchanging. We change a lot. Our emotions change, go up and down and everything. We're very unstable creatures, very flawed, very sinful. But God is, he is who he is, and he will never change. And so, the whole thing about him fulfilling promises, like, I think that has given me the most just confidence and ability to be able to be patient through the whole thing.
Mi piel, ¿cómo fue? 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 La riqueza la llevo mi piel, la fortaleza la llevo mi piel.